All right. Welcome to the Note Investor Podcast. I'm Dan Deppen, and today joined by Dave Franecki. Dave, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you, Dan?
Good, good. So I've been looking forward to talking to you for a while because I know we've met several years ago, but I haven't talked to you a whole ton and learned about your background. But I know you've been at this for many, many years. So maybe you just give us like a kind of a quick introduction on uh, kind of who you are and some of the things you've been up to.
Okay. I if, I've been self-employed pretty much all my life, starting as a commercial landscape contractor in Cincinnati, and then as the economy flipped around in '83, moved to Portland, Maine, jumped right into as an agent. I bought my first home, seller carry,
Hmm.
meaning that I optioned the home to close in 6 months FHA, but I also got 20 acres and developed that and that was bought seller carry, developed that into 20 building lots.
Oh, and this was in Ohio?
This is in Portland, Maine.
Oh, in Maine. Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Going back to Cincinnati, I owned a few properties there, but I really didn't do that much. So then in Maine, as an agent, and then I also consulted with builders and developers, taking things through the planning board and getting them approved for subdivisions.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
And then as the economy shifted in 1990, I eventually moved to Phoenix and got back into real estate in the 1999 as a builder developer agent. Uh, Built, I don't know, 30 plus homes out in the West Valley, subdividing, doing a little bit of seller carry here and there. And
Mm-hmm.
um, that went well. And then everything crashed in '08. And I became an REO guy, REO agent, sold 800 or 900 homes here. And then I came across Eddie Speed in 12 and as
Okay.
far as note school. And then I ran with
Mm-hmm.
that and did a bunch of JVs and had a note investors forum here. We meet once a month. We get 50 people for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
And then when COVID hit, I backed out, and now I'm back in the gig buying and selling dirt and selling land, acre building lots on seller carry, and then selling the notes.
Oh, interesting. So I'm always interested in like studying economic cycles and how they affect things. So what was the economic change in 83 that you mentioned we
In
left?
1981, we were borrowing money from First National Bank of Cincinnati, and their prime rate to contractors was 22%.
Oh, yeah.
Try to run a business on 22% carrying costs. You can't do it.
Yeah, that's got to be tough.
So at that point, my dad said, I'm done because I was doing things with him. And he retired. And then I moved out to Portland, Maine.
Oh, okay. And then what happened in 1990 when you
Everything crashed again. It was a major crash.
okay.
The market isn't everything I had, the lots I had or real estate just stopped selling. It was just
Mm-hmm.
flatline. So what I've learned in these different cycles, you can be on side A where you get crucified or side B where you win, or if you're in
Mm-hmm.
between, like right now, now's the time to clean your house and get rid of all the negative stuff that's in your portfolio so it doesn't bury you later.
Right, because it seems like it's been a little bit since
15
we've had a
years.
real crash. I mean, there
We,
was there was the COVID thing where like it got weird for a little bit, but then the economy kind of like mysteriously boomed and it's been yeah.
but normally you have a 7 to 10 year cycle. We have never, ever, ever had a 15-year cycle of
Mm-hmm.
positive. So there's been a lot of winners in that 15 years, but there's a lot of people, you just accumulate junk that you're carrying and you're out of pride or whatever, you don't want to get rid of it, but that will bury you. So from your perspective, my perspective, we can help a boatload of people now through consulting or whatever to get out of things. If it's notes, get rid of your junk notes now, sell them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just very interesting. So now what are you doing now? You said you're subdividing land.
I'm buying dirt
Uh-huh.
in the West Valley of Phoenix. It's called Tonopah. That's where I was building.
Okay.
And then subdividing, or another parcel. I bought 6 lots of a parcel that was subdivided in 1963 and selling them off. My primary buyers are strong, healthy, paying migrants, you have
Mm-hmm.
cash, but my terms are unique. Most people think, oh, let's just take 2, 3, 5% down. No, I've learned from my note experience as you have. So I'm getting
Yeah.
40% down,
Mm-hmm.
12 to 13% interest, and the new notes that I'm doing are going to be a 4-year balloon.
Okay.
And then out there, that's where Gates is building a 35,000 acre mini city or smart city,
Uh-huh.
turning 2,400 acres into a solar farm. One of my
Mm-hmm.
buyers is the superintendent of that, or assistant superintendent of that. They're bringing in 500 people. He already helped me sell one lot, and he said, I can get rid of the other lots for you too.
Oh, interesting.
So they got a
Yeah.
strong paying job. It's going to be out there for a while. Solar, of course, where it's Arizona.
Right. Yeah, that's hard, probably hard to find a much better spot
Not
than
only
that.
that, they're building a ton of warehousing for AI here, which requires a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's coming to Greater Phoenix. Not to mention what's going on at Casa Grande with GM or P&G or whatever. The industry is moving out here.
Well, and you guys have Intel out there too, right? So
Oh yeah, a
presumably
big
they're doing
way.
a lot of,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So is it going to crash? Absolutely. Is there opportunity here? Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. But you have to be cautious. And just like in '08, when things dropped out 50 points, they may drop 20 or 30. So when you're buying now, whether it be notes or whether it be property, you have to allow for that negative side or be ready for it and carry the burden, whatever you want to do. So when I'm buying land now, if the numbers don't make sense now, allowing
Yeah,
for
because I mean, call the underwriter, I see a lot of the notes that are created and, they're all over the map, as far as the terms people use. But yeah, I do see quite a few with pretty small down payments where,
right.
if the property values drop, the borrower's going to be upside down
Yep. And these notes that I'm
pretty
creating,
quickly.
the last two, I think the unpaid balance was 16.9. So then I'm going to raise the price point of the lots up to another 4,000 up to 30. So it's not a lot of money. So the note
Hmm.
balance will be 20 or so. But again, I'm getting a good 35. It's 40% down.
And what are people doing with those lots? Are they slapping mobile homes on them, or are they going to build on them eventually? Or
The the solar guys are bringing in an RV, and instead of paying $2,500 a month rental when they're on this project, they're going to put an RV on there and live there, and then they'll build.
oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
So they've got the job, and the irony, you're going to laugh at this one. The second buyer, I met with him, and he lives here now. He said, I need to tell you something. I just got out of jail 7 months ago. I was part of a gang. I was in jail for 10 years. So if that's going to
Oh,
hurt,
wow.
then, uh, you know, I understand. I said, no problem. And then they just promoted him to start another facility in Albuquerque. So they do like what he's doing. He said, I had a come to Jesus meeting in jail. And I thought, I've got to get my life together. I thought, that's the candidate I want. That's motivation. And he had good
Yeah.
credit and he had money,
Wow, that's crazy.
isn't it? Whereas
Yeah.
the superintendent, how do I say it? He still lives in California. He commutes. That's the other reason why he wants to have an RV here. But
Uh-huh.
um, he's got an expensive partner.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So he's going to have to change his ways too. And again, with the superintendent, I says, if you bring me a buyer, I'll give you a referral fee. I'm good with that. So it's all good.
Nice, nice. And then now you said you're setting them up with a 4-year balloon. Are they basically just gonna plan on paying it off after 4 years? Or sounds like
Nope,
they're relatively small dollar amounts, so they're
they are.
probably not
So
refinancing.
I set the amortization up at 10-year with
Mm-hmm.
the first ones were an 18-month balloon, and they had no problem with that. But the second one, I'm going to push it out to 4 years so that I can sell that note and recoup my cash. Because the interest rate's 12, 13%, I should be able to sell that at par without too much of a discount.
Yeah, and especially because if they've put, I forget exactly what you said now, 30,
40%
40%
down.
down. Yeah. then you should be good. Because I know the other thing too is I have a lot of clients who are not doing exactly what you're doing, but creating notes and then sometimes looking to sell them. And I know a lot of the note buyers, one of their most important parameters is that loan to value.
And that's exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. The other on another parcel, I sold 2 lots to one guy, and he's a car dealer, Hispanic. His
Mm-hmm.
brothers got so they put the lots under brothers on the car dealer's name. He says, I'm going to pay you off in a year. So at that point, we've got to rewrite the paper for the other brother. And there'll be some points in there, and I'll make sure I got my loan to value. Those were at 30% loan to value, which still is not bad. Um,
No, that's excellent.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just the knowledge that you and I have gained in the note business has been, you can't quantify that because it applies to so much in real estate. It's everything.
Yeah, to me, now, I was a little bit unique in that my first foray into real estate was notes. So that's a little bit unusual, probably. But, as I've gotten into it more, I think you're right. Loans in some form or fashion are kind of at the heart of everything, whether it's,
Yep.
seller finance on single family or commercial stuff or, land or whatever. Like it's so important to understand. And it's a little scary sometimes how a lot of people struggle with just the fundamental concepts of loans and and how they work. So,
And then to that point, one thing that I learned in a big way from my first mentor, Kevin Chartel and Eddie Speed,
hmm.
partials to the point where on YouTube, I've got a couple of YouTubes on there on how to do a partial. And I was known at Note School as the guy that, if you want to know about partials, talk to Dave Franecki.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I can implement all that. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, so are you still doing partials these days or?
If the opportunity's there, I will. So selling these 4-year balloon notes is almost like somebody just buying a little partial, but they're buying the whole note. So I mean,
Hmm.
they don't have to worry about inflation depreciating the principal value because with the purchasing power, it's a short window
Hmm. No, that makes a lot of sense. So,
because inflation is not our friend in terms of the unpaid balance. So you want to make that window as short as possible, and that's where partials come in too.
yeah, I hadn't thought about it quite like that, but you're right. I mean, yeah, especially the last few years, inflation has not been
It's not our friend,
great, or at least a lot higher than what it's been
right?
previously or the last many years. So,
Right. So it's just it's a I love the thrill of the chase. It's a game in a way. I'm helping
hmm.
people along the way. I'm consulting with them. I'm giving other investors ideas on what to do if they want to do more. It's gratifying to be able to share ideas on how to improve one's business if as one is open for that without me trying to be a know-it-all. I just want to help people along the way. It's gratifying at my age.
Yeah, and it sounds like your business models have evolved over the years. Like it sounds like you've
I
done
mean,
kind of different things, and yeah.
right. And then, as I mentioned in my bio to you, after I moved out of Maine, I bought a self storage facility in Corinna, Maine, which is by Bangor. I had that for 7 or 8 years. It didn't really go where it should go, but I made money on it. I sold that a couple of years ago. So, we
Uh-huh.
only had 50 or 60 units, so we've done a lot of indoor storage for boats and motorhomes and things like that. But it was a good gig. I had for being absentee in Phoenix. So it was different.
Yeah, that's not too bad. So is it like the Storage Wars shows? Like, do people ever not pay the bill and take off and leave you with valuable stuff in the storage unit? Or
Here and there, yeah, yeah. No different than being an REO agent. When people leave a home, I got all kinds of good stuff in the homes.
yeah, I'm kind of interested in hearing some of your REO stories because like I've done, a decent number of non-performing notes and I've had a couple of horror shows that I ended up with, hoarder houses and stuff. Like what's the worst thing? What's like the worst REO you've bumped into?
Just pure trash. No dead bodies
Hmm.
or anything, but just pure trash. But it would be not. I'm a hiker here in Phoenix, so
Uh-huh.
not it would would be very common for me to hike Saturday morning and be done maybe at 9:30 or 10, and I'd be out breaking into or rekeying new listings for the balance of the day. I mean, in
Mm-hmm.
January of 10, I got 66 listings.
Oh, wow. Now,
So
has that kind of subsided now that there's not like quite, at least right now, not as much distress in the
right.
market? Yeah.
And I think that this time around, those REOs are being saved for folks like BlackRock. They'll let them come in and buy them before it gets to that point from the large banks.
Okay,
And then
gotcha.
and as you look around, you've got your commercial stuff coming up here that's really in trouble, but your B of A could very well fall, generically speaking, and some of the others. So, um, like I say, it's going to be a lot of pain, but it's going to be a lot of opportunity if one knows what they're looking for. So, with your network, the folks that are close to you are newbies, you're a great guy to have because you've got that knowledge and you can direct them, pivot around. And the same thing with me. So there could be a lot of winners out here, a lot.
Yeah, I know my models have changed a bunch, over the years where I was doing, like a lot of non-performing stuff like 5, 6 years ago. And that's kind of shifted. Like the notes I bought in the last year have been more along the performing or kind of like
Agree.
sub-performing, like spotty payers.
Right.
I do a lot of that. And then now, more focused on creating notes. Like where I've seen people get into trouble is when they have like a recipe that works well for a while. And it seems like no matter what your recipe is or how well it's working, like the market conditions inevitably change. And
Change.
so, yeah, you can't,
But,
you're probably not going to be able to do whatever worked 5, 10 years ago. Yeah.
have you found this? I had a couple of notes and I got them through mailers and the payer was on and off, on and off. So what I ended up doing, just call them up individually and have a
Hmm.
heart-to-heart conversation, just like you and I are having right now. And I might have had to do that 2 or 3 times, but over a period of 4 or 5 months, they came around and the payments became on time and it became a really strong performing note. But the
Yeah,
yields,
I've
the yields on that, because they were sub-performing, were incredible on the purchase. Then by just being a human being, they became performing and your yields went off the chart.
yeah, I've done a fair number of those because I find like those sub-performing ones, like one of the mistakes I think sometimes people make is they kind of put notes in two buckets, like either performing or non-performing. And I feel like really it's a spectrum. There's like a million shades of gray.
Right.
So a lot of times I can buy those sub-performers at, like you said, those really high yields. And especially the ones like I bought a bunch that were originated 8, 10 years ago, and the property values have gone up. So, they still cash flow, it's just lumpy, but there's also a lot of equity, so I'm pretty well protected. And
Yep.
that's kind of been my wheelhouse, aside from just the flat out performing ones, the last 2 years or so.
The one that I'm in particular, I think it was originated in '09. And
Hmm.
I think what did I get that for? 35 now. In 2000, well, I sold that last year. It was worth 2 or 250. So it's like,
Hmm.
there's no risk
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and you can get more or pretty close. I think it was at 9%. I think it sold at 10 and a half or 11. That's fair. Trying to be fair to
Yeah, that's
all.
good.
And I had the spread so I could do it. So it's, it's fun to play that live Monopoly, if you will, for me.
Hmm. Yeah, there's always something new going on. So I wanted to ask you more too, like about, the land deals you were doing. So I've never bought raw land and created notes, and I've never bought land notes, mainly because it's just not an area that I've learned
Right.
about and really know much about, and I don't know how to value them. Like I said, I'd like to ask you, how do you go about finding a piece of land that's suitable for that?
Because of my agent background, I've been going through agents and looking for those properties that have high DOM or days on market, meaning that those sellers, they're going to have a meeting with themselves like, oh, I got to come to reality on price points. So I was able to buy those at a really good price. Now, if the sellers aren't motivated, I just walk away. I'll come back later. But short. So, and then when you go into an area, you've got to, if your goal is to subdivide and you're not familiar with it, you got to figure out what your end value is for an acre lot, or that's what I'm selling is acre lots. And basically, if they're selling for 30, I've got to get that lot for at least for no more than 15 or 16 to allow the selling costs, survey costs, and whatever else. You got to get that spread.
Yeah.
And then with that too, if you're unfamiliar, your surveyor is your best friend. They have a knowledge of the area. They can educate you on everything. It's just part of the survey. We ask the questions. Okay. In Arizona, we have flood zones, and FEMA rates them. Federal Energy Management Agent, whatever, it's probably going to be cut by one of Trump's things anyway coming up. But
I think it's agency. Yeah. So if it says agency, it might be short-lived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's got flood, when you're building, it requires flood insurance. It's a cost. So it affects the back end buyer. If there's no power, and a lot of times there's not out there, you got to see where the power is and what the cost is to bring it there. Chances are I'm not going to have a well. So in Arizona, you can do one well and share that with a total of 4 homes. So it mitigates the cost. So this is things that I do as a developer. So when you're comparing, if lot, like one of my group had all power right next to it, that's wonderful. Another group that I bought, power was 1,000 feet away, $50,000. So that impacts what you ask for that land. And I made money, but I didn't do well on that. I was getting all the cobwebs out of my brain. But, and then you have to educate agents because they don't, I'll just be nice, just say they're ignorant. But you just have to go that way. So now I'm looking down by Casa Grande, which is south of Phoenix on the way to Tucson. So I have to get re-educated on the back end values, front end values, find agents that I feel I can trust. It's all a trust factor. And then I'm buying all this stuff the last group I bought was in my Roth IRA, which and I changed the IRA facilitator. They just went out of business. I won't mention names, and the other one was
did
soft.
you? Well, I know that my IRA was at Quest, and then it flipped to Inspira now. Yeah.
So I was flipping a note through Kevin Shortell, and the new company. Let's just say after a conversation or two, I changed my IRA out of there. And
now, did you? I asked this question because I've left my stuff in there. Did you have to then, like, because I have a bunch of notes in mine, did you have to then go like reassign assign them all over to the new custodian? No,
because it's owned by the Roth IRA. You're just changing the facilitator. So in my case, IRA invests in a personal property trust, which invests in a title holding trust. So everything it says outside of the manager, the IRA company, and through my trustees, they manage things for me.
Oh, so the trust owns the assets, and then the IRA just owns the trust.
Well, the IRA is the manager of the trust. So again, that's something I learned in my education. But through Jeff Watson, he's an attorney.
Yep.
Okay. And
I need to have him on as well. I haven't done that.
But he's a great resource for that. Yeah. So, but that's the best ownership because you're separated and nobody knows you for asset protection. It works really well.
Yeah, I wish I would have set mine up that way because if I consider changing the custodian, but I don't want to create a whole boatload of assignments and things.
Well, let's just say when you go to sell them, based upon what I encountered when I was flipping that note, you're going to wish you had. So when I went to change, I had my I plan send them a letter, meaning Inspira,
Mm-hmm.
to switch it over. Dead space. So 3 weeks later, I planned set another one, and I sent three of them. Within 24 hours, is all switched over because I wasn't
Uh-huh.
going to mess. I would have, you just have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
That's something
Yeah,
we can
that
talk
makes
about
sense.
offline.
Sure. Yeah,
So,
no,
but
definitely. Yeah, I might ask you more about that. So,
so anyway, it's so now I'm independent again. That goes back to my landscaping days. I'm independent,
mm-hmm.
and I like to stay that way. Other than doing JVs where you're the JV manager and you've got a good relationship, like my trustees, they've been my trustees for 10 years.
Yeah.
And all through my meetup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having the right partners is huge. So like I've got a number of investors that I work with and yeah, it's been really nice. Basically just keep them informed of what's going on and answer
Right.
questions if they come in, but it's been fairly
Right.
easy and straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah. So now with the land, they're all in trusts, whether it be in my LLC or whether it be my IRA, and the trust sells the land to the new buyer, and we take back paper, hold it for whatever period of time we've got, what I'm finding to be the best scenario, and sell the paper and move on.
Mm-hmm.
But
So what would you
appropriately,
tell people who are interested in getting started in the space? Like where would you have them
in what space?
begin? So I would say like investing in real estate and notes in general to try to gain themselves some more freedom and maybe diversify a little bit from a W-2.
It's all about finding the right people to partner with. A great way to be would be to partner with a senior, with somebody that's got more knowledge, and just
Mm-hmm.
suck their brain. Let them be the manager, and you just marry them and get everything you can from a standpoint. Even if you don't get the returns exactly that you're looking for, that knowledge you would pay for in other places. Get it this way, you're getting paid.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So,
And then, um, there's other folks that we had talked about. Yeah, I'm sure you do consulting to that effect too with your partnerships.
oh,
And,
sure.
and,
Yep.
and the same
Yep.
thing, and the same thing with my land. We're putting together a group, and there'll be several newer investors. But again, people that all I have to do is call them, they'll say yes, but they want to learn the land business.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll put some money with me, and I'll share my knowledge.
Nice.
But it's
Nice.
getting the knowledge, getting the trust, but the knowledge of the business, but also getting educated of where you're going to go. In my case, in land, I have to learn the different geographical areas because they're all different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Even though
then,
they're within the same state. Yeah.
well, and then also one of my big criteria is I like the color red better than blue.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it is where I live too. I don't invest in my backyard, but my fiance works in economic development, and there's a big difference. It's interesting. I get to meet some of the various economic development folks around Colorado. Yeah, and some counties are a lot easier to build stuff in and do business than others.
So a fault that I have is I get impatient too easy.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is to be patient. But also when you're looking at a deal, have you ever heard this phrase, Dan? There's always another guy or another girl or another opportunity around the corner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You keep that in mind. You just be patient and it will come.
Yeah. Well, that's good advice. Well, that's probably a good starting point, Dave. How can people get a hold of you if they want to connect?
Best they can call me, they can email me. My email is just use my name, Dave at davefranecki.com, and it's spelled on the screen there.
Yep.
They can call me, text me at 480-232-5477. So I'm in Phoenix, so we're running Mountain Time now, just like you are. I guess you're Mountain, or
Oh,
did
well,
you?
I'm different. No, you guys are that always confuses me. But now that so I'm in Colorado, we're also on mountain time, but then you guys don't do daylight savings time.
We don't change, right?
Now that I have a
Right.
daughter living in Arizona, I can keep track of it. But now that we're
Right.
on daylight time, you guys are an hour behind us. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. But I guess get educated. They can, I mean, I love doing consulting work and sharing. It's not going to be for free, but it's
Hmm.
going to be a win. So we just take it, but also figure out, you as the newbie, what are your goals? What are you looking to achieve? If you don't have a goal, there's nothing, you can't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how people go in circles if they don't know what they're
Right.
trying to get done.
And I'm sure things that I've mentioned to you, you've already done this several times. You're just saying, yeah, I get that. I've been there before. It's nothing new. I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah.
right?
But it's important though, because it's so common and I've seen this like in notes a lot where people have an interest in a space, but to your point, like they don't have a specific goal and then they end up, well, like listening to a lot of things like this or, talking to people doing stuff, but then never actually like getting involved in any deals because they're not quite sure where they're headed.
So if you're not sure, that's where you partner.
Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. So,
And
well,
then,
I'll,
and, go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, go
Go ahead.
ahead. Okay, yeah.
And then also, as you go along, I would definitely get an IRA, a Roth IRA, and do as much as you can on that because it's all tax free. At least the Roth is,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
just use some common sense. It's really what it gets
Sound
down to, is common, and partnering with people with common sense.
well, that sounds like good advice. So, well, thanks again, Dave. Really appreciate you coming on.
Sure. And Dan,
And
I wish you all the best too. And
all right.
when you're in area visiting your daughter, give me a shout if you're going to go to the RIAs here. I'd love to get together for you for lunch or dinner.
No, I definitely will. Yeah, it's not very far from me, and I'm definitely hanging around Arizona more these days. So, yeah, hopefully see you
Right.
soon.
Good deal. Thank you.
All right.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks. All right.
Take care.